Scanning for audio.
Welcome once again to a Tin Dog podcast, number 250. Yes, you've been with me for a hell of a long time, and it's now my 250th Tin Dog podcast, and to celebrate, from Monday, for 3 days, I will be releasing a small comedy sketch every day, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, so remember to check your feeds. I hope you like them. But that's in the future. The important thing right now is to discuss, well, the Krotons, DVD due out on this coming Monday.
This is a warning. This is a warning.
What is happening here? Where has that girl gone? The Krotons. They've sent her to join the Krotons.
This is a warning.
We only know what the Krotons tell us. We don't think. We obey.
Why do we take their orders? We don't even know if they exist.
Hello?
No one defies the Krotons.
Anybody there?
The Gonds are conditioned to obey.
Complete obedience is the Krotons' first command, and if we fail to obey...
Hell destroy you, I see.
Krotons cannot die.
Press the button!
All right, there's no need to shout. Now go away and don't fuss me. Now come back, what's this? It's all right, I know.
We've been slaves for 1,000 years.
Destroy the TARDIS machine.
You think you can free us in one day?
Do not move.
Oh, my giddy aunt.
Smash them!
What about Jamie?
Jamie.
This is not a hybrid. It is a primitive. Then the power will kill it.
The Krotons is the last full, complete Second Doctor story to be released on DVD. There's still a few more titles to come out, not many, all with missing bits, things like the Ice Warriors. And I'm sure some reconstructions will eventually follow on. We've still got those missing episodes after all to find. So all is not lost, but as of things standing at the moment, the Krotons is the last full story to come out. Now, for a lot of people, the Krotons was their first ever experience of the Second Doctor. Because back in the early 80s, BBC Two showed a series called The 5 Faces of Doctor Who. It was my first experience of the Second Doctor. We'd never come across them, and I was 9. As a 9-year-old, I was kind of enthralled, I was impressed. Storyline seemed perfectly reasonable, it was a good thing. But as a 40-year-old, well, it's not quite as good as I remember. Oh, you see, that sounds awful. That's not quite what I had in mind. I mean, I'd seen it on VHS years later, that wasn't a problem. And it was never my least favourite of stories, and a lot of people in fandom genuinely just don't like it. But don't let that put you off. I mean, I know most of you are completists by this stage. There's only a handful of discs left. So if you're still listening to reviews to decide what to buy, well, it's not bad. Not at all. It's got some lovely moments. All right, just like the Happiness Patrol, they're kind of let down by the major villains. But let's look at the positives. Straight off the bat, the first thing to mention is it's by Robert Holmes. It's his first outing. Now, it was a bit of an emergency measure when it comes to storytelling. Originally, there was a different story in here. Prison in Space. Prison in Space is, well, it's a rather risque kind of story. It has leather-clad security women running this prison in space of the title, and basically it's a whole female dominance over men thing. And if that's the sort of thing that floats your boat, well, you can either visit your own websites or you can visit Big Finish, because it's been released as a lost story. It does contain a scene where the Doctor has to spank Zoe. Shall we move on and back to the Krotons? I think so. Oh, if it does interest you, I'll put the trailer on at the end of this. So either way, that gets cancelled. That doesn't get made. What does get made is this, the Krotons. At first glance, this is a fairly standard story for Doctor Who of the time. It's been suggested and argued that it would fit perfectly well in with the First Doctor. It's got a few similarities with things like the Ark in Space, or for me, the Savages. Both very good pedestrian stories. But this is the planet of the Gonds. And like so many Doctor Who that was to follow, there was political things going on in the real world that echoed through this. Now, there are arguments that could be made. Say this story was produced now. You wouldn't be saying, oh, it's the Paris student riots of 1968, which is what this was drawing parallels with. You could watch exactly the same text and draw your own parallels about something else. You could say, no, this story is actually about the national curriculum and the way that it forces you through university and forces you through education and then dumps you out into the real world and wastes you because you're not needed anymore because it's taken what you needed. It's actually an argument against capitalism, if you want it to be. It's an argument against educational systems. It's an argument against lots of things, but let's face it, it's a Doctor Who monster lurking in a spaceship, controlling a group of people, and that's all it is. Allegories can be drawn at any point in by any story, and if you look hard enough, you can make any story mean anything. So yeah, subtext aplenty, but the actual story are three intrepid characters, that's Zoe, Jamie and, of course, the Second Doctor, turn up on the planet of the Gonds that smells like rotten eggs. So, our three intrepid heroes wander around for a bit, discover a rather impressive door, a door that spits out students and then blasts them with acid, because that's the sort of thing that goes on round here, or is it just some sort of dissolving spray? They go inside and they find that the whole of the society of one town, you never get to see anything else about the rest of the world, but it's an early story. I'm sure Holmes would have expanded on this given time. And this society is basically geared in order to serve or learn from the Krotons. Yes, there's throwaway lines about not learning about acid and things like that, and the Doctor hinting at crystalline structures. As the story develops, you get to find out that these creatures, the Krotons mentioned in the title, are actually running the whole setup. What they need is brain power to power their computers and machines and build their spaceships back up to full power. It's a bit like Numberjacks. You can tell that I've got a 3-year-old, can't you? Using brain gain. If you don't get the reference, then you're the lucky ones. I'm genuinely rambling here. Right, getting back. As monsters go, the Krotons are a bit rubbish. Yes, they've been brought back on audio, which is great, because they've got some weird South African accent. Again, you can have that as part of your allegory if you want. Why they've got a South African accent can be gone into and is fairly obvious, and is not worth going into at all. The important thing is that they're not brilliant. They're basically blokes in suits, and they've got spinny heads. They're supposed to be crystalline, and yeah, you can probably get away with that, but they're just they've got little rubber skirts on that are meant to be hovercraft bases, but they're not, they're just rubber skirts, and how you could get that out of a crystal is beyond me. Yes, I know they appear in Alien Bodies, the novel, and I know they kick Dalek bottom, but here, and this is all we've got to go on, they're just rubbish. They're second-rate to quarks. They're just not great. Yes, they've got some sort of malevolence going on, but that's more sort of you suspending your disbelief and buying into the fact that they're the villain, rather than just looking at them and going, moving on. Mind you, how many other Doctor Who monsters could that be said of? The answer is quite a lot. So they're after this brain gain. The Doctor is, of course, a genius, but likes getting things wrong. The Zoe isn't, and you get some genuinely subtle acting moments, not so subtle acting moments, that you can see echoing perfectly through the Smith Doctor. The 11th Doctor could be in this story, and no one would bat an eyelid, but it is of a similar standard to, say, The Gangers. It's a perfectly good set of performances, it's just not brilliant. And just not brilliant's fine. And just not brilliant Doctor Who is still better than practically anything else on TV, although I am really enjoying Once Upon a Time. Don't hold that against me, will you? So on the DVD, what do you get extras-wise? Well, there's of course a commentary track, and lovely, lovely on this one, it's got Phil Maddock. Yes, we know he's gone now, and there's a really touching moment where they chat with him and he says, perhaps you could have a sort of Doctor Who villains time at a Doctor Who convention, and he would go to that convention, especially in America. So Gallifrey, I'm sorry, but he won't be attending. He'd love to, he would have jumped at it, but he can't. He's no longer with us. Axis and Thal are also seen on this. Assistant Duff Floor Manager David Tilley, a nice bit of Sylvia James makeup design, and of course Bobby Bartlett, that's the costume designer. There's some lovely special sounds below Brian Hodgson, and it's a sort of revolving door commentary, moderated rather well by Toby Haydock. Yes, I'm sure he's going to do the rest of them for the rest of this run. I'd be very surprised if he didn't. Phil is just superb on this. Also on the disc is a really nice documentary called Second Time Around, which talks you through the rejuvenation of the Second Doctor and basically talks you through his entire time on the show. Also on this one, and rather oddly, is Doctor Who stories. These are the new ones they're doing. Fraser Hines. This is odd. It was recorded in 2003 for the story of Doctor Who, but obviously there's a bit more included. And this is only part 1. Now, as this is the last Troughton disc that's fully in existence, it's either part 2 is either going to be on the Ice Warriors or it's going to appear on, well, a Regenerations box set. And that's just a bit naughty. Again, there's another Doctor's Strange Love. They keep doing these things. Joe Lidster and Simon Grunier this time. No sign of the comedienne Josie. They've got an overly affectionate look at the Krotons. But then again, could you ever be overly affectionate about them? I've got no issue with that. So I'm going to fade away, and next time there'll be some, well, a little bit of a surprise. So remember, that's Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. 3 shows, 1 every day. So check your feeds. And then I'll be back with some more reviews very, very shortly. So thank you very, very much for sticking with me these last 250 shows. And I'm sure there'll be more very soon. Be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who The Lost Stories, the Second Doctor box set.
They advanced on him, slowly, deliberately. You saw what they did to that man?
It doesn't mean they'd do the same to us.
If you think I'm going to stay around just to find out...
Me neither.
You're a man, aren't you? Defender of the faithful, the people, and the state in the name of truth and justice. Men of the world, unite. You've nothing to lose but your chains. Chairman Babs, where are you taking me? You may be a criminal, but you're still a woman.
You seem to have emasculated every other man on this planet, but you won't bully us into submission. Aye, just who do you think you are, you mealy-mouthed old besom?
The Daleks! The Destroyers!
Is there anyone there? Show yourselves!
Sarah Kingdom has climbed down into the valley.
Have you got anything in your memory cells on Daleks?
The Daleks are the dominant life form on the planet Skaro in the 8th galaxy.
The 8th? They're way out their own territory.
Attack and destroy!
I wish you'd make some noise when you move around. I've had enough scares for one night.
70 years ago, they slaughtered the garrison on Alpha Millennia. 6 months after that, a Dalek ship was identified near Mars.
The Daleks are out and on the rampage. They're right here on M5, somewhere.
Attack and destroy! Attack and destroy!
Subscribers get more at bigfinish.com.